Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing the Lorcana Gateway set and how good a job it does at introducing Lorcana to new players. I'll also probably be mostly teaching you the game along the way, just incidentally, and as far as my thoughts on Lorcana itself, because this is a more review of the Gateway set as opposed to Lorcana itself, but if you want my quick thoughts on Lorcana, it's a game system that I enjoy. I'm originally a Magic the Gathering player. That's like my main TCG that I fell in love with and spent lots of time and money on. And Lorcana is a TCG that I very much enjoy, but I'm definitely being more pulled in by the theme of it and the generational appeal, the fact that I can play it with friends as well as with my kids and having a good time along the way, but it's not necessarily my go-to TCG if you're looking at it mechanics alone. That's my kind of main short thoughts on Lorcana. But I enjoy it, I play it casually, I have fun with it, but a lot of it is about that generational appeal, while also being a good game as well. As far as the Lorcana Gateway set, the goal of this set is to introduce new players to Lorcana in a more streamlined fashion by basically distilling it down to the most basic rules of how to play, and then introducing new elements one at a time through the use of card packs that will add new cards, give you that sense of unlocking as you go, and introducing new concepts to new players. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Lorcana is a pretty easy game to pick up either way, but especially if you're teaching it to new players, I do think this is a very good way to kind of onboard them by really distilling it down to core concept, add 1, add 2, add 3, until players know how to play the game. To that end, let's talk about Lorcana and kind of walk you through that arc of what the Gateway set is going to do. It's going to start you off with a few card decks, giving you two pre-built card decks. So we're going to have gold and purple as one card deck, and red and blue as one of the other color decks. You're going to go ahead and get the basic rules for Lorcana, which, if you want to know, the basic rules for Lorcana is you are trying to get your way towards 20 lore in order to win. In order to get that lore, you're going to be questing as you go. Now, the way that's going to work is you're going to start the game with a hand of 7 cards. Now, again, the teach of the game kind of takes away a few things as you start. So concepts like mulliganing, you're going to kind of avoid the first game. The sequence of when you can play a card or in the order of taking actions is going to kind of skip that. It's going to give you this nice little player board over here. We do have a nice player board. We have our little standees to track the lore of the characters. We have slightly better tokens than what you'll find in the and whenever you get a basic set for Lorcana, you get slightly better tokens over here, and then you have a board that gives you the on your turn. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to ready turning your exerted cards upright. Exerted cards, if you're a Magic the player, exerting is going to be another word for tapping as you spend a card, and you can move your cards upright as you go. Now the game is actually going to give you a specific order to your starting cards, which is not what I have here, but it's going to give you this, hey, do not shuffle, here's an exact starting hand, again, to really ease players directly into the game. No mulliganing, but you are getting a preset hand. And it's going to walk you through it. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to ready any exerted cards at the start of your turn, and then you're going to go ahead and characters you played last turn can act this turn. The reason for that is when you play Lorcana, characters are, the way it phrases it is the ink is not yet dry. When you play a character to the game, you cannot use that character this turn. It's not going to come into play tapped, it's going to come into play ready, but you can't use it this turn. The ink is not yet dry. So ready, set, draw is ready. Turn your exerted cards upright. You can go ahead and set characters you played last turn can act this turn, and then draw a card. So the first player is not going to draw a card, so we're going to skip that, but after that, every player is going to go ahead and draw a card at the start of their turn. From there, you can go ahead and ink. Once a turn, you may add a card to your inkwell. Now over here, we have cards that all can be added to the inkwell, but let's go ahead and find you one that can't. Here, for example, is a card that can't. You can see the difference on that top left corner, where if you see, looking at these two 6s, that is a card that can be added to the inkwell. That is a card that cannot be added to the inkwell. Most cards in a starter deck of Lorcana are going to be cards you can ink being the primary currency of the game. So the first thing you can do on your turn is you can go ahead and reveal a card to the other players. Hey, look, this is an inkable card, and then you place it down into your inkwell where it'll be used as a currency for this and all future turns. Part of the game is balancing your card in your hand and trying to figure out when you want to utilize a card for its ability and when you want to place a card into your inkwell so that you can go ahead and pay for other cards. At first, you're going to need some ink in your inkwell, but as the game progresses, whether you pay that 5th ink, that 6th ink, how much economy you're getting out of that ink versus benefiting from the card itself, that's going to come down to your deck and also the game state. When you're done inking, you can go ahead and act. You can play a card from your hand by exerting ink. You can exert a character played before this turn, meaning again, you cannot play a character you just played, in order to go ahead and quest for lore or challenge an exerted character. That's the basic idea. Play a card or use a card is effectively what you're doing in the game. Now when you play a card, let's go ahead and grab a basic card. We have Minnie Mouse over here. I'm going to play Minnie Mouse. I'm going to exert my ink over here to play Minnie Mouse. She's a 1-cost character. She has 1 attack and 3 defense, and right now she can quest for 1 lore. And by right now, I mean next turn. She can't do it the turn she's played. That would be a basic turn. I place my card, I pay for a 1-cost card, my card's exerted, I cannot do anything else with Minnie Mouse, my turn is done, it's over, next player's turn. Now when it comes back to my turn, we're going to go ahead, we're going to draw a card. Well, first we're going to ready my exerted cards. Set Minnie Mouse can now be utilized. We drew this new card into our hand, and now once again we can go ahead and ink. I'm going to look at my hand, I'm going to take this 5-cost card, which I can't benefit from for quite a few turns, so I'm going to ink it instead. I now have 2 ink to play, and then once again you can choose what to do, whether you want to attack another character or whether you want to quest for lore. Now questing for lore is going to be the main way you ultimately win the game. You need to get to 20 lore in order to win. That's pretty straightforward. You're trying to just get your way towards 20 lore, and that's why we're looking at various cards, and this card over here, which can quest for 3 lore. Gaston, Intellectual Powerhouse, which is ironic in its own right. You can go ahead and quest for 3 lore when you quest, which is a good way to jump your way up to 20. The problem is whenever you quest for lore, or when you attack for that matter, you are exerting your character. And exerting your character is how you make them vulnerable. So right now I can tap Minnie Mouse in order to go ahead and gain that 1 lore, so I can go ahead and move up on this track, gaining 1 lore. I've now, exerted Minnie Mouse and I have that 1 lore coming my way. But on future turns, other players can now attack Minnie Mouse now that she's exerted. In general, you can exert a character to quest for lore, or you can exert a character to attack another character, and when you do so, you effectively trade blows. So let's go ahead and grab a card. That's just let's grab a card from this deck over here so we can show you how this would play out. If we had Olaf on the other team over here, if Olaf went ahead and exerted to attack Minnie Mouse, both of them would deal 1 damage to each other, which means they'd both take a wound, and they'd both be alive because they both have that 3 health over here. So you are trying to deal damage to characters and take advantage of what is ideally the right card to attack with or damage with in order to kind of win the bout. Olaf attacking Minnie is not necessarily a win. They're both kind of doing the same thing, which is not a lot, and you probably want better troops at play, unless of course someone's too far ahead that you really need to take them out rather than letting them continue to quest for lore. That's basically the game. You're going to do that back and forth until eventually one player either achieves their 20 lore or, well, that's it. You want to achieve 20 lore. Now that's what the basic game of the Lorcana Gateway kind of walks you through. There are other rules at play, but all of those were skipped because you don't need to get into those. This is giving you the very quick distilled version of how to play Lorcana. When you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and open up Pack 1, and Pack 1 is going to give you a bunch of new cards to add to your deck, which again, from a dopamine level of how to play this game, that gives you that unlock sense. You're already adding cards to your deck. You get the sense of unlocking boosters and being able to put cards into your deck. They are customized to the specific deck, so as opposed to if you're diving into Lorcana for the first time and you open up a new pack, and half those cards might not even help you for the decks you're building, in this case, the decks are, the packs you unlock are specifically designed to be adding cards to the 2 decks at play. But the first thing we're going to add in deck 2 over here, and I should note by the way the guidebook operates, it doesn't just straight up give you a pack. Rather, when you're ready, you're going to go through the set over here where it gives you these quests to go on. It gives you specific things you can do, and as you mark them off, that's when you open up the next pack. So it kind of gives you these goals to work your way towards that will help you benefit from the various mechanics you're learning, because the game will teach you things, and then it'll say, now that we've taught you this thing, if you do this thing X number of times, or in X capacity, or deal this much damage, whatever the specific goals are, that's when you can unlock the next pack. Now obviously it's up to you whether you choose to do that or just play a game, unlock a pack, play a game, unlock a pack. It's up to you. The main goal is that it kind of gives you that's something you're working your way towards as opposed to diving straight into everything Lorcana. So when you unlock Pack 1 over here, you're going to be introduced to songs. Songs are a mechanic in which you can play a card not just by paying its cost. In this case, we have Seldom All They Seem. It's a 2-cost card, but because it's a song, a character with a cost of 2 or more can sing this song for free. So if we go ahead and return to the game state, and let's pretend I have Aurora in play, Aurora can go ahead and exert herself in order to sing this song. In general, the cost of a song can be sung by any character who has the same or higher cost. So Aurora can exert herself in order to sing this song, which is a great way of being able to do a lot more quickly, especially if you don't yet have enough ink to power things up. That's everything you get in pack number 2 as far as the new mechanics of the game. But again, the packs aren't giving you a ton of stuff. They're just introducing things one at a time so you can get straight into the game, straight into Lorcana without having to learn all these extras. When you're done with pack 2 and you work your way to pack 3, again, either by finishing certain goals or by just by saying we're ready for pack 3 right now, or pack 2, I guess. That was pack 1. Pack 1 is the first new thing. Pack 2 is going to introduce items and item costs. So here we have medallion weights. This is an item card. Items are slightly different than characters because they can be exerted the turn they come into play, and they're going to do different things. They're not going to give you a way to quest or to attack, rather they give you an ability, often involving either paying a cost, tapping it, or exerting it, or both. So in this case, the medallion weights, from Mulan over here, you can go ahead and exert the card and pay 2 in order to chosen character gets +2 strength this turn. Whenever they challenge another character this turn, you may draw a card. So this gives you something else you can do as far as some sort of ability that will impact the game state, and it's only unlocked once you get to pack 2. When you work your way to pack 3 over here, we're going to be introduced to a new concept, which is shifting characters. Shifting characters, you have specifically Floodborn characters that can shift. So Minnie Mouse over here is a Floodborn character, and she can shift onto another version of Minnie Mouse. So we have Minnie Mouse in play over here, and Minnie Mouse over here is a 4-cost character, but you can pay this card for only 2 in order to place it on top of another character named Minnie. So Floodborn characters that can shift onto previous existing cards can go ahead and you can get a cheaper card in play by paying a lower cost to get a higher cost character out, but at the cost of replacing one of your previous characters. That's going to be the new mechanic you're introduced to in set 3 over here, in pack 3. And then when you get to pack 4, pack 4 is simply going to add you a few new cards and simply teach you the rules for deck building. So pack 4, by the time you've unlocked pack 4, you've exceeded the 60 cards you would have in a deck, and now it says, hey great, we've introduced you to the concepts, here you have a bunch of cards, I believe it's 66 cards you'll have, go ahead and remove 6 cards to get to a standard deck size of 60, which means now for the first time, once you've opened pack 4, you have to actually deck build as opposed to having the deck being built for you. Now again, it's not a ton of choice, you're not like building a deck from scratch, rather you're removing 6 cards in order to give yourself a functional deck, but you're removing 6 cards from a bunch of cards that you've now played a few games with, so there's a sense of familiarity and less of a sense of pressure of really building and constructing a deck, so much as simply removing a few cards to result in a legal deck. So kind of backwards you into deck building in the most easily absorbable manner, I guess. And that's basically what Lorcana Gateway is doing. It gives you the basic rules for Lorcana. It gives you a few premium-ish components with this board over here, these standees, and then these slightly nicer tokens. And then it kind of walks you through learning Lorcana from the most basic rules to introducing them one at a time through the use of new packs to the various characters, to the various players, and also giving you a kind of questing system where you could either just straight up go from pack to pack as you play, or alternatively actually accomplish the goals in order to unlock the packs. That's what Lorcana Gateway is doing. Which brings us to the review, which is going to be very short. Most of this time was spent on, well, the teach and how it actually works. But the review of Lorcana Gateway is, it does a great job. This does a great job at introducing Lorcana to players in a more absorbable fashion than Lorcana already is. Now, my biggest critique of this, is I think Lorcana is pretty easy to jump into even without getting into this. Meaning, I don't know how necessary something like this is. For most players, I think Lorcana is an easy to pick up and learn game, whether you are new to TCGs or not. I think it is fairly easy to pick up, and I think this really kind of breaks out some basic, like just one thing at a time rules into multiple packs. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that I don't think this has merit. I think it does a very good job at really taking a game that's easy to learn and making it easier to learn. So I do think it does a good job. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's something that, especially like, first of all, if you're intimidated by these kinds of things, then yes, this can be helpful. But secondly is, even if it's not necessary, that doesn't mean it's not a good thing. I think if you're already playing Lorcana, if you're already enjoying yourself, you definitely don't need to pick this up. If you're someone who's diving into TCGs for the first time, it's probably not the worst. You get a bunch of cards, you get an easier walkthrough than the game already is, and it really streamlines that teach for players by really distilling it to the most basic concepts ever. Your first game is going to have a preset deck that kind of walks you through things as you go, so you can really just learn in the most easy way possible. So again, my biggest critique of Lorcana Gateway is I think that Lorcana is already a pretty simple to learn game, so I don't think this is a necessary product. But once you get past that word necessary, I do think it is a good product that makes Lorcana even easier to learn than it already is, streamlines the onboarding process so you can really just dive straight into the game, and will get you up and running and walk you through the processes and give you that sense of building a deck as you add more cards each time. That's probably one of the most fun things, where the downside, again, if you're diving into a game like this for the first time, even as you open new packs, it's not necessarily always easy to incorporate them into your decks that you're trying to build, because they may not always be the right fit, and they may not even be the right colors. This kind of gives you that ease of everything you open and discover within the set is inherently designed to go into your deck, and then by the time you get to the end of it, you do a little bit of deck building, and you can actually start working through the process of, now, okay, I've done this, I've removed 6 cards to build a functional deck, let's see if I can go ahead and start building my own decks from scratch now that I really understand how to play. So overall, not necessary, but a very good, streamlined way to learn Lorcana if you're in the market for that. So that's kind of my review of Lorcana Gateway. Not going to give a score to this one. It's kind of a different kind of product. I'm not really reviewing Lorcana. I'm reviewing the nature of onboarding people into Lorcana in the easiest way possible, which it does a good job at doing. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.